Hi, I'm Ashot. I call this episode The Poor Geniuses and the Rich Mediocrities. The July day was unbearably hot. The temperature reached 38 degrees Celsius. There was no relaxation even in the evening, and as night approached, the air was still warm, although it was quite pleasant when combined with a glass of icy Bavarian beer. 1 glass or 2 glasses, maybe 3. To be honest, I cannot remember how many. I just remember we were having a great time meeting my friend at a coastal bar in Mallorca. At that moment, he, having met some very important old friends, stepped away, and I enjoyed my beer, idly looking around. Nearby, 2 guys of about the same age, probably around 40 or 50, were sitting there. My friend had already glanced at them a couple of times before as they raised their voices again, having probably forgotten they were not alone in the bar. And now I somehow began to understand that they were seemingly measuring who had a bigger, competing in a friendly manner over who was cooler. One was already a bit offended and was reluctantly listing his values, the classical stuff: his house, his sports cars, his diamond watches. The second guy patiently listened, but with a sneering, superior smile, he was likely listing his values in response. He spoke significantly quieter than the first one, so I only caught fragments of his words. But anyway, he spoke of deeper thoughts, good ideas, the meaning, philosophy, creativity, and suddenly it got hot. No. The weather didn't suddenly change. It was just that the first guy suddenly asked his friend loud enough for the whole bar to hear, "If you're so smart, why are you so poor?" Silence. Curtain. Those bar guests who, like me, were following this profound dialogue rapidly returned to their drinks and conversations. After all, the guy was right. There are plenty of arrogant know-it-alls in the world with a bunch of brilliant ideas who, however, don't even have $100 for a taxi in their pocket. And suddenly, completely unexpectedly, the second guy responded, and not in the quiet voice he had used until then. He loudly responded even more sarcastically than the first. "If you're so rich, why are you so stupid?" And at that moment, whether from the beer or the heat, I froze. In my opinion, the second guy was also right. An idiot will never become rich. Well, that's right, isn't it? Let's give it a shot. There are many fascinating thoughts and theories about smart and stupid people in this world. One of my favorite quotes from American writer Charles Bukowski, with which I even begin my first published book, The Brunette Mirage. Welcome to Amazon. It goes like this: "The problem with this world is that smart people are full of doubts, while stupid people are full of confidence." I have thought about this for many years and have smoked quite a few pipes with a good whiskey with my best philosophical friends. Today, I share these thoughts with you. Well, indeed, a stupid person is too stupid to realize that they're actually stupid. Therefore, they sincerely consider themselves smart, and their life beautiful and full of happiness, with no problems at all. A smart person is smart enough to consider themselves smart. Therefore, they sincerely think they're stupid, and their life is complicated, full of struggles, with a mess of problems. Over time, I realized that America was discovered long before me and came to understand the Dunning-Kruger effect. According to Wikipedia, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a metacognitive bias that occurs when a person with a low level of competence in a given area begins to consider themselves an expert in that area, making wrong conclusions and poor decisions without realizing their mistakes due to a lack of knowledge, skills, and abilities, leading to a false definition of the limits of their competence and an inflated view of their abilities. I personally know several such people and carefully call them pseudo-gurus. Conversely, highly qualified individuals tend to underrate their abilities and suffer from a lack of confidence, considering others to be more competent. Thus, less competent people generally have a higher opinion of their own abilities than competent individuals, who also, by the way, tend to assume that others evaluate their abilities as low as they do. It is also very interesting that individuals with a high level of qualification mistakenly believe that tasks that are easy for them are equally easy for others. This is my next favorite term, the course of knowledge. According to Wikipedia, the course of knowledge is a cognitive distortion in human thinking and psychological phenomenon proposed by psychologist Robin Hogarth, which states that more informed individuals find it extremely difficult to consider any problem from the perspective of less informed individuals. In an experiment, one group of participants tapped out the melody of a well-known song on a table, while another group had to guess the song. The tappers were convinced that at least 50% of listeners would guess their song, but in reality, only 2.5% of the other group did. The graph of the Dunning-Kruger effect is very interesting. On the horizontal axis, we have wisdom, which, as we know, is experience plus reflection from my episode 11 Steps to Knowledge. And on the vertical axis, we have confidence. So wisdom and confidence. So when a person just begins on the path of knowledge, their confidence does not rise smoothly. Instead, it spikes sharply. They quickly begin to think they're brilliant. This feeling peaks at the so-called peak, the hump up, but in reality, it's the peak of stupidity. After this, despite gaining new knowledge and wisdom, there comes a feeling that you actually know very little. And this uncertainty accompanies a person until they reach the minimum, the hump down, in a so-called valley of despair, after which a person enters a long phase of enlightenment, restoring the lost connection with their wisdom, and now assessing their wisdom much more adequately and confidently. At this point, as the guys before said, if they're indeed smart, they can stop being so poor. As for the impossibility of an idiot becoming rich, here too, as in all of life, the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule should apply, which I also discuss in my episode 100% Idiot. In this regard, the thoughts of Andrew Tate are very interesting, despite his polarizing personality. In his opinion, everyone who is not rich for one of the three reasons. 1. Stupidity. 2. Laziness. 3. Arrogance. So, not rich due to their stupidity are only 5%. Which is why, by the way, the second guy in the bar was wrong. An idiot can indeed be rich and successful, if only because he lacks the competence to recognize risks, unlike a smart person, and he just does and becomes rich. Next, I think about 45% are not rich due to their laziness, which is logical. But, wait for it, those who are not rich due to their arrogance are the majority, fully 50% of people. These arrogant know-it-alls with a bunch of brilliant ideas have too much competence to recognize risks compared to an idiot, and therefore they simply do not act and do not become rich. It cannot be a coincidence that Mr. Lev Adolfovich Ozerov, also known as Goldberg, a poet and a literary scholar, said once, "Talents need help. Mediocrities will break through on their own." So, where on the Dunning-Kruger graph do you find yourself now? Who are you? A poor genius or a rich mediocrity?